Greetings and a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you very much indeed for joining Global Peace Studies for Sustainable Development in Africa, where we discuss pertinent issues of peace and sustainability around the world and across Africa. I'm George Mutalemwa, moderating this session on behalf of the Africa Peace and Development Network, MAMA. Our theme today is intercultural learning as a pathway to global peace and dialogue, the COIL experience. And we've got two speakers today, Olamma Kalu and Alexa Christine Guzman Blastervold. Both of them work at the UPAEP. I will try and read it in Spanish, Universidad Popular Autónoma del Estado de Puebla in Mexico, where both of them are working actually on global perspectives. And today, we are honored to have both of you, and we are so grateful that you found time to share your wisdom experience with us. And I welcome everybody here on this call today. I look forward to your presentation. So you may actually start sharing your screen, Olamma, and then we will proceed with the presentation. So this is Global Peace for Sustainable Development in Africa, and you are all welcome. Please, you are welcome to begin.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning from Mexico, and good afternoon to those in Tanzania. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to be giving this presentation on the COIL experience. I am International Learning as a Pathway to Global Peace and Global Dialogue. I am joined by my colleague, Alexa Christine Guzman Blastervold, and we also have a third collaborator who would not be in the call today due to time difference, Dr. Elizaveta Golosova. So first, I'm going to give an outline. So this is a quick roadmap of what we're going to look at in today's presentation. I'm going to introduce very briefly the facilitators, but Prof. George has already done that for us. We're going to look at the objectives. What is the objective of this presentation? I'm going to introduce the COIL methodology, which is the focus of this presentation, is to present the COIL methodology as a platform and pathway that could be used to facilitate global peace dialogue and discussions, particularly among the youth. We're going to present a project that we did between two countries, between Mexico and Russia. I'm going to present also the intercultural learning, how intercultural learning, and COIL is one of the ways of intercultural learning, can be used for global peace and dialogue. And finally, we'll have some space for Q&A. Okay. So these are the three of us, Alexa Christine Guzman. Alexa, do you want to introduce yourself for a moment?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alexa Guzman, and I have been working at UPAEP between 6 and 8 years in different departments. But I'm currently working with Olamma in the global perspective, and it is very, very interesting for us because we had a really great team of collaborators. I have training in dentistry, but also in English language teaching. And so I also work as a professor in translation and interpretation, English and Spanish. And so the culture situation is very, very important. And this summer, Olamma and I certified at AFS intercultural facilitators. So I very much enjoy working in the Global Perspective program, and I think it's very important for our students, and not only in Mexico, but I do believe it's very important for our students worldwide to have this type of experiences. Thank you, Olamma.
Okay, thank you, Alexa. Dr. Elizaveta is not here to present herself, so I'm just going to share the slide that has her information. So Dr. Elizaveta is an associate professor in the Faculty of Journalism in the Ural Federal University in Yekaterinburg. She has over 17 years of experience. She has published numerous articles, and she specializes in areas such as negotiation management, journalistic discourse of terrorism, organizational behavior, and she's also worked extensively in Latin America, specifically in Argentina and Mexico, as well as in Europe. And she was the third collaborator for this particular project. And then presenting myself, my name is Olamma. I'm originally from Nigeria, but I have lived in Mexico for 8 years now. I work with Alexa in UPAEP University, and we are part of the Global Perspectives Professors. The course that we teach is called Global Perspectives, and the aim of this course is to, well, give students a world view of issues that are happening in their society and also show them that they can be active change agents in their world, starting from the local level to the international level. I've been working at the University of UPAEP for the past 5 years. I have training in business management and human resource management. I completed my education in Papua New Guinea and in the Philippines. And that's a little bit about me. So now we're going to go to the rest of the presentation. First, the objective of this presentation is to present predominantly the COIL methodology, the importance of the COIL methodology, how it connects students and faculty worldwide, how the COIL methodology breaks classroom boundaries, builds cross-cultural ties, enriches learning through collaboration, and how all of this can foster peace, respect, and global cooperation, not just at the level of professors in academia, but also at the students' level. Okay, so our center, just for context, the center that Alex and I work for is called the Global Competence Development Center in the University UPAEP. And this center was created in 2023 because the institution had a need for a department focused on the development and measures of competencies, global competencies, in line with the OECD PISA framework, the institutional vision, and learning outcomes. So our center is very new. However, we are trying to have as much global impact and have collaborators from around the world because, as Alexa said, giving students this immersive experience and international exposure, albeit virtually, is extremely important for them to be aware and conscious of the world around them and their role in the world around them. Okay, so we're going to begin with what is COIL. So COIL stands for Collaborative Online International Learning, and it is a virtual learning process that uses online technology to facilitate sustained student collaboration to increase intercultural competence between students in 2 or more countries. I have here the 3 flags of Mexico, Russia, and Tanzania. Because this is just an example of the disparities or the differences in time zones. And one of the things that we have to overcome is coordinating time differences, coordinating time zones, and also trying to find a middle ground when it comes to culture, discourse, and dialogue. Why is the COIL methodology relevant? So it fosters intercultural competence and cultural intelligence. It helps us to achieve academic collaborative learning gains. It promotes inclusive internationalization. So the COIL gives an opportunity to students who do not have the resources to travel abroad for an immersive exchange program to have internationalization at home. Okay. It fosters real-world problem solving and societal impacts through the projects that the COIL project entails. It also develops soft skills and professional development. And finally, it provides faculty and institutional enrichment. So the links, the convenios, or the relationships between different universities are strengthened through such partnerships, such as the COIL program. The COIL methodology is not something that is just in Mexico. It was actually pioneered in Mexico in 2020 or 2019, right after the COVID-19 or in the heat of the COVID-19 pandemic, as universities were scrambling to find a way to maintain international ties and to continue to have academic relevance, despite the fact that we were all locked in our homes or locked in our offices. It was pioneered by the State University of New York, or that's the first pioneer that was registered. And from there, it has been adopted in many countries. In South Africa, the University of Free State has implemented COIL projects. In South America, in Mexico, Chile, Brazil, Ecuador. In Asia, Japan was one of the, in Kansai University was one of the pioneers, followed by Thailand, Malaysia. And we've also worked with China and other universities. But this is just to show you that the COIL methodology has international relevance and international impact as well. In the Americas, there are many centers that are dedicated to the COIL. In our university, UPAEP, our department, the Center for the Development of Global Competence, is one of the departments that focuses heavily on the COIL methodology or strategy. And we have different associations like the American Association of Colleges and Universities. We have the AMPE, we have PIC Americas, we have the State University of New York Center as well, the University of Veracruz, and various network centers that are focused on promoting the COIL methodology within the Americas and also establishing links to those outside of the Americas. Okay, so what are the benefits of COIL for students? So the first one that I had mentioned is that students would be able to have this international experience from the comfort of their homes and without the cost that is associated with international travel. Students will be able to collaborate with peers from different cultures and languages. They'll be able to share learning experiences. They'll be able to improve their leadership skills, project planning, time management skills, especially for the project that Alexa and I did with a university in Russia that was, I believe, 11 hours ahead of us. Many of our students had never encountered that kind of interaction before, where they had to wake up at 11 p.m. to talk to someone who was just having breakfast on the other side of the world. So that time management skills and also opening their mind to the vastness of the world and people's experiences in the world. They can experience international exchange from home. They can engage in discussions on cultural, local, and global issues and also express their scope from different perspectives. Many things are taken for granted in our own cultural contexts, but when you dialogue with people from around the world, you understand that people have different perspectives or different views on the same issue. We're going to talk about some experiences that we had in this particular project between Mexico and Russia, and Alexa is going to handle that. And then they're also the last benefit for students is to utilize global competencies and put global citizenship into practice. Because in the COIL project, students work together from around the world on a shared project or on a shared assignment and a shared goal. And they have to put in cultural empathy, intercultural communication, intercultural understanding, put global competencies, soft skills, citizenship, all of these, they put it into practice rather than it being a theoretical subject that is taught in the classroom. For professors, there is also a benefit of this COIL methodology. It fosters two-way learning. With every single COIL project that we've done, we did a pilot in 2024, and we did another one in the beginning of 2025. There is always two-way learning that happens. As much as the COIL is curated and facilitated by the professors involved, the students also come up with new ideas and suggestions, and especially because COIL is heavily technological based, and the students are usually those that have, well, the most idea or they're most up to date with all of the new innovations in technology. So we learn as much as we are teaching. Professors can co-construct and collaborate to combine different methodologies. This I had the pleasure of speaking with a professor from Tanzania. And I realized that I'm from Nigeria, but I school and work in Mexico. And our form of teaching is different. In Tanzania, and I believe in many countries in Africa, the lecture modality is what is used, where you have 400 students in a lecture hall and a teacher in front of the lecture hall giving a presentation. In Mexico, we have more intimate classes where it is a student to teacher ratio of maybe one teacher to 20 students. So I would have 20 students in my classroom and I would teach those students, and every other teacher would have 20 to maybe 30 students. It can even get down to having 10 students. So in such different modalities of teaching, we would have to collaborate and find a middle ground of how a lecturer who has 400 students and a professor who has 20 students in 5 different classes would be able to have an overlap to collaborate and to implement this COIL methodology. Digital pedagogy, again, experience of digital tools. Another benefit is the certificate of participation that is preferred to all participants in the COIL program. So the professor will get a certificate of participation from the UPAEP University in Mexico, and then the students who wish to as well. And this can actually be a benefit for students because they can put it on their CV as a form of international participation. Because it was international participation, it was an international exchange, even though it was virtual. And then also for a benefit for professors is to build professional networks and to have the opportunity to work together on projects and research papers. Okay, so the logistics and coordination of intercontinental COIL projects, because that is our goal of making this presentation, that to solicit more international partners and more international collaborators who can enrich the COIL program and the COIL project for our students as well as our professors. So there's a timeline from first contact to launching of the COIL program. First contact is usually made virtually. Prof. George visited UPAEP University in 2024 as part of our Global Summer Faculty Exchange. So I had the pleasure of meeting him physically and expressing all of these ideas. But normally our first contact is virtual. Then planning and collaboration, the COIL launch, facilitation of the COIL program. The COIL program is predominantly student-centered, so students have total autonomy of their work. The professors plan and collaborate beforehand to curate the type of projects assignments that students will do, and then students have autonomy, and we simply facilitate, supervise, and monitor. Finally, lessons learned, and then relaunching of the COIL program once again. With this in mind, it's very important to have a certain profile of COIL professors and COIL facilitators. Commitment is extremely crucial because it is time outside of your normal teaching or investigation or research hours. Professionalism is also required, flexibility and adaptability with time zones, and also with the alignment of course material and course goals, because usually we have to analyze our different syllabi. We have to look at the different learning outcomes and see where we would have an overlap. The goal is for the COIL project not to be an extra burden or stress on the students, but it's to be something that enriches their intercultural experience and gives them a panorama into the greater world. Cultural intelligence. An example is in Africa, it's very common to call your professors by their surnames. So Professor something or Professor Mutalemwa or Mr. Dr. Mutalemwa. While in Mexico, it depends on the professor, but it's a 50-50, and there's some students who may call professors by their first names if the professor gives you that privilege. And having the cultural intelligence to understand the differences between cultures, to understand the differences between students' dispositions, and also to be able to question without taking things personally is also something that's very important, especially when cultures are so distinct. And then collaborative spirit. The COIL requires a lot of commitment, and it's those professors who have a collaborative spirit, who have a heart to not only interact for their own professional development, but for the goal of the development of the students. And we're going to see this at the end, at how one of the great benefits of the COIL project is how on a larger scale it can contribute to debunking stereotypes, correcting wrong Orientalist myths that have been projected about different societies. With that goal in mind and with that spirit of collaboration, that is one of the things that would carry COIL facilitators forward to be able to embark on this kind of project. Okay. So this is still more on the logistics, just so you have a visual of an example of how the differences between the semesters or differences between universities can be. This is a Gantt showing the overlap between UPAEP and the St. Augustine University of Tanzania's semesters are. For the COIL project, we have to ensure that the COIL happens when there is an overlap between semesters or overlap between academic years in the school. And this was projected for us to be able to plan between myself and a Tanzanian professor, how and when we would be able to, and what duration the COIL project would be, so that it would be beneficial to both students and not encroach on their examination or evaluation period as well. So this is one of the aspects of planning for the COIL. Technological compatibility is something that's extremely important. When starting, particularly with our project that we worked on with the Russian students and the Russian professor, because a lot of applications were not accessible, we had to be creative and find different ways of using a technological app or software that both groups of students rather would be able to collaborate on. We tried from using Google Suites. We've used different other YouTube and different other technology in the past, but ensuring that we have technological compatibility and access to internet, and then adapting whenever there is maybe a power shortage or one form of technology does not work, being adaptable to that, and also paying attention to students because they would know what technology would be most appropriate for them. So we had students who ended up reaching out via Instagram because their Zoom was not working for whatever instance. But technological compatibility is extremely important in the planning and monitoring of the COIL projects. So this is more of the logistics in the terms of the back end. I already mentioned aligning semester dates and holidays, sharing of course material, planning how you would like the COIL project to be evaluated. So it's not just doing a project for the sake of doing the project, but what are the metrics that we would want to measure at the end of the project? Do we want to see that students have greater intercultural communication? That do we want to see that they experience greater intercultural sensitivity? Do we want to see how some stereotypes that they had been debunked? What is the goal? Is it quantitative or qualitative? And how are we going to measure that? There are other considerations such as learning and teaching formats, I already mentioned before, and then students' needs, abilities, and accessibility to technology and internet. During the COIL stage, the COIL process, the professor makes a virtual introduction, facilitation, supervising, choosing of the EdTech tools that will be used, such as Zoom, Google Meet, Padlet, Moodle, and then afterwards evaluating the percentage of success. Here I have, okay. And then the next slide will be on intercultural learning and how intercultural learning is important or relevant or related to COIL. Okay. So just very briefly, what culture is. We all know that culture is a set of learned and shared interpretations about beliefs, norms, values, what is appropriate in society or in a large group of people. And through intercultural learning, we're not only learning about other cultures, but also about ourselves. A very important part of the Global Perspectives course is that students are pushed to question their own belief systems and why they think the way that they think. It's not to promote single-mindedness, but to have them be critical in their own understanding and their own beliefs, and also for that to translate to when they interact with other people and to be aware that their perspectives have been shaped by their cultures and may be biased, and that the onus is on them to correct these biases. And then intercultural competence is being able to communicate and act appropriately and effectively across cultural differences. And through the COIL, students are able to put these intercultural competence and intercultural learning into practice and into use. Some important notes about intercultural learning here, that it's more than learning about specific cultures. It's about going deeply into what motivates behaviors. It applies in both international and domestic settings. It requires self-awareness of yourself as much as it does of others. And Kolb's learning cycle is a very important theoretical framework in pedagogy, but we go a little bit further than that, that as much as experience, active or abstract, is required, facilitation is needed so that students do not promote stereotypes that already exist, but rather dismantle them and have a correct view of the world. And this can only be done if the actual owners of the narratives, so rather than having someone else tell your story, if the owners of the narratives are those interacting and actually telling stories, or telling the experiences of themselves from their own points of view, rather than having someone else report a situation about them. And I believe with that, I'm about to come to the end of my segment of the presentation, and I will let Alexa take over here. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Olamma. Well, I want to share what we did during our project, especially in March and May of this year. This was with the University of the Urals in Yekaterinburg. And so it was from March, the planning was from March to May, but the actual time with the students was 4 weeks. Next one, please. Next slide. Thank you. Okay. So what we did during these 4 weeks, Olamma presented to you all of the development and all of the planning we have to do as professors previous to the actual working of the students. So the students actually had like a 4-week session. Each week they had to complete on their own time one of the following, the activity established for the week. I also put on this slide one of like the biggest I'd say challenges for our students, because as you can see, there's an 11-hour difference between Puebla and Ekaterinburg. And so that was like the first reality that our students had to deal with. And so here they call us very frequency professor or miss. And so my students would come and say, but miss, I wrote them today at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and they haven't answered. I'm like, well, have you checked your time zones? Oh, well, it's 5 in the morning. I'm like, well, you probably won't get an answer until 7 or 8. So that was something that was very important. They hadn't actually come up with that kind of a situation before. And so in the first week, we asked them to create an introduction video. See, each one of the students who participated had to make a small video about themselves so this could be sent to the students in Russia and the students in Russia to the students in Mexico, so they could meet each other previous to have like physical contact on Zoom. I have a link there, Olamma. Is it possible? It's a very, very short video. These are very short videos, but this is one of the best ones of my students, and I think it was very, very nice, and I'd like to share it with you.
All right, so I'm going to share that now.
It's very short, but I think it's very nice. Okay. Very well presented.
Hello, my name is Jesus. My full name is Jesus Castañeda Torres. My name comes from the Hebrew word.
We lost the audio.
For academic reasons, I currently live here in Puebla. Puebla is my...
Do you still have audio now?
Yeah, he did come back. Can we replay it, please?
Okay, yes, of course. Okay.
Hello, My name is Jesus. My full name is Jesus Castañeda Torres. My name comes from the Hebrew word that means God saves. I am from Tlaxcala, Mexico, a beautiful magical town steeped in Spanish colonial history and one of the first Mexican territories. However, for academic reasons, I currently live here in Puebla. Puebla is my favorite city in all of Mexico. A fact about me is that I love art and sports. Professionally, I dedicate myself to photography and dance, as well in the past to Taekwondo. I am 19 years old and I am studying medicine in UPAEP. In the future, I want to become a neurosurgeon.
Hello, my name is Elliot. I am from Mexico.
So as you can see, it was a very short introduction, and this particular student really did a lot of production. He did a really good job, but it was very nice because each one of them had to make at least 1 minute, minute and a half, no longer than that, an introduction about themselves. Especially when you're working with people from a different country and you don't know a lot of the cultural competencies. This is kind of an icebreaker, and it really worked very well. So on week number 1, they had to create their video and send it. We had a special Google section that we opened up that could be used for the students in Russia and for us here in Mexico. So we had to upload that. And so our students, the first moment was their presentation. Then the second moment, or the second week, each student had to have contact. So this was the challenging point. They had to agree with the students in Russia. We had teamed them up. In this particular situation, we had more Mexican students and Russian students participating in my group. So we had to team them up. So we had 3 Mexican students for each Russian student. And so they had to agree on a time for a Zoom call. And so like Olamma had mentioned, sometimes Zoom wasn't available. They had to go through Google Teams. And sometimes that wasn't available. They tried to make a video call through WhatsApp or Instagram. So that was a challenge because not always technology was compatible. And they had a list of questions that we gave them. It is easier we figured it was a little bit easier if we had a list of questions, because again, this was the first contact we had with the students. And so what the purpose of these questions, or this questionnaire, was to debunk stereotypes. So we had our first questions like, what are things that you have heard about my country? In this case, it was Mexico and Russia. And then what are stereotypes that we have from Mexico and Russia? And why do you think this is true or not true? So they had the opportunity to speak. What are you most proud of as a Mexican or a Russian? What are festivities that you celebrate? What are important celebrations? And so they mentioned, celebrations that are very common or important in Mexico and in Russia. So we did ask that the call be between 10 and 15 minutes between the students. So that was like their first contact, to be able to meet them and to have a list of questions. Sometimes my students mentioned, well, it's like I'm meeting someone for the first time and I really don't know how to react. So those questions were like a good way of going down the checklist. And by the end of the call, they were a lot more relaxed and joking and enjoying each other after that first contact. Then the third week, Olamma, if we go to the next one, please. For the third week, we wanted them to share a photo collage about their cultural identity. And so again, each team had to come up with certain characteristics of what makes you Mexican, what are the characteristics of being a Mexican, what are part of our culture, traditions, food items. And so they had to come up with an infographic they could send their partners in Russia. And so this is what happened. And so this is the presentations. I thought some of them were very, very beautiful. They did really good work. It's also very enriching because the students really have to think about their own culture and highlight and sometimes even research, because these are things that are around us, but sometimes we don't realize what is the meaning behind it. So it is a really good opportunity just to dig into your own culture, to your own background, so you're able to explain this to your peers, in this case in Russia. So this is what the students in Mexico presented. Olamma, please, can you go to the next one? We had a similar situation with our students in Ekaterinburg from the Euro University. So they again had to do their introduction. And again, they also gave us a presentation. It was like an infographic with their cultural background. So this was also very interesting to share with our students. So that was week number 3. And lastly, for week number 4, they had to go back and analyze what they had seen and worked with the students. And now individually, they had to come up with a blog post and share precisely what they realized, what they learned about the language, about the time zones, about the ideas, the beliefs, about customs, traditions, tools, equipment, rituals, ceremonies, and all of the elements they learned throughout this exchange. And so we had the culture blog post. And in the end, they also had a self-evaluation where they explained or they mentioned what competencies they felt that were enriched during the process. And so it was very, very interesting because many of them realized cultural empathy. They realized, or they make the comment, I mean, these are young people just like us, and they're also like different fashion ideas, or oh, they also have traditions, and so it was like an and all of these opening moments for them, which was real time, real skills, real abilities to become a global citizen, to realize that Russia is not really, really far away. Russia is actually very close, and that you can have a Russian friend and someone that you experienced an intercultural exchange. So I think they realized, here's some of the stereotypes. They organized, well, it was surprising that some of them had like incredible video editing skills, like this video I showed you. In this case, we had asked them to do their videos in English. And so we wanted them, because English is our second language here at the university. And so some of them especially some of the Russian students, did not necessarily speak English, so they used subtitles. So that was a way of communicating. Some of the comments were like, Russian people are shy. And after the presentation and after they got to meet each other, it wasn't so true. And so they have a similar sense of humor. They also mentioned about, unfortunately, in Mexico, sometimes we have a bad reputation about related with drugs and drug lords. And so that was something they were debunking. And also with Russian students about being like very strong in their opinions. And so, I mean, it was a very, very enriching experience, because the debunking of the stereotypes, I think, was very important, because of the traditions, the culture, the ideas that people have in Russia, and the same that we have in Mexico. So they realized that Russian people are not always cold. So I think it was quite enriching, and I think it was a really good experience because students realized that it's just more people like them, young people that have aspirations, that have dreams, that are studying a profession, they want to have a professional life. So I think that was very important, because sometimes in our minds, places are very, very far away. And so people are very, very different. And when you're able to encounter and have that interaction and that proximity, the world gets smaller and we all become global citizens. So I think it was a very, very enriching experience for our students. And I think this also fosters global peace, because we're able to understand that even if people are far away, we have the same desires to become professionals, to do good things for the world. So I would very much like to continue participating in this type of events because I think it's extremely enriching for our students, and it is also very wonderful for us as faculty. We had the opportunity, I don't know if Olamma mentioned, but Professor Ekaterina was here during the summer again with the Global Summer Program. And so we had the opportunity to actually get together, all three of us. And it was very exciting. It was very, very fun because you get to see the person, real in real time. And so that was also something that benefited us through the programs of Global Summer. So I would like to very much continue participating in this kind of event with my students. I think it's very enriching, very important, especially fostering empathy, global citizenship, and world peace, which is something that we very much need at this point. Olamma, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you so much, Alexa, for that. Some of the results of the COIL project that we did, as Alexa mentioned, apart from intercultural fostering empathy, open-mindedness, global citizenship, communication, and figuring out ways to communicate, which is something that's extremely important in an inclusive world. Being able to communicate with people who may not speak the same language or have the same abilities as you. Our students had to learn in real time how to do those. They also had to put into practice intercultural sensitivity, intercultural communication, and as well resilience and emotional strength. Those were three things or three factors that were surveyed at the end of the COIL project from our students. And we were able to see their responses here and see how the COIL project contributed positively to these three particular factors. Okay. Now I'm going to go to our rounding up, which is COIL as a pathway to global peace and dialogue. How can COIL facilitate global dialogue? Because COIL is between students from a certain country or from that own country, they have ownership over their own narrative. They're able to say, no, actually, Russia is not like this, or Mexico is not like this, or Nigeria is not like this, or Tanzania is not like this. And they tell the story because, unfortunately, sometimes narratives can be controlled by students or people who are in countries that have higher power relationships or stronger power relationships. So giving students control over their own narrative, debunking stereotypes and myths about the global South, and also ensuring micro-level collaboration and dialogue between students. Our project was focused mostly on cultural aspects, but we've had projects where students had to, with other colleagues in UPAEP, where they had to create a project for a particular solution. So they were given a problem in society, and students from around the world had to collaborate together and create a solution with perspectives from different parts of the world that would solve a singular problem. Real-life application, debate, and forum, active empathy, which would lead to change and eventually transformation. As Prof. George always says, change and transformation are not the same thing. Critical inquiry, and also global citizenship. I'm going to go to, for the point about internet and AI, I would like to quote His Excellency, Dr. John Mahama, the President of Ghana, in his United Nations address a few days ago. He said that the internet, social media platforms, and artificial intelligence offer us the illusion of connectivity when in fact what they do is reinforce isolation by using algorithms that ensure that we do not receive new ideas and perspectives, but rather more of the same content. The world is becoming more globalized and technologically advanced. However, that does not equate the fact that we are more connected. COIL projects where you actually have contact between two students from different countries is what would facilitate the dissemination of correct information, of appropriate information, and correct narratives. I've had students come and tell me something that was completely untrue about a part of the world, and they saw it on TikTok or they saw it on Instagram. So the fact that we have access to so much technology, we should not rely or think that that technology is what is going to promote discourse or promote the content that would be relevant or that would lead to global peace dialogues or lead to dialogues that would bring connection between different countries and different agents. Through COIL projects, we can facilitate as professors, guide, and also help students to be able to connect with people from around the world, to tell their own stories, and also to hear the stories of other people, and to be able to overcome, not erase their differences, but work with their differences, build intercultural competence and empathy for greater cooperation, for greater dialogue, and for greater peace building. And with that, we would like to invite you to be part of the 2026 COIL experience. I have my email here and also my WhatsApp. I can also put Alexa's own in the chat. And we would like to invite you to be part of this journey as we continue connecting and building bridges between classrooms, cultures, continents, faculties, and contributing to global peace and global dialogue and even conversations that the world so desperately needs. And that is the end of our presentation. Muchísimas gracias from Mexico, or thank you very, very much for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, Olamma and Alexa, for the brilliant presentations. And thank you so much for inviting us to join COIL. And I'm sure that some people will write you back expressing their interests. And well, I thank you really for talking about really intercultural competencies. I think we all need this. We discussed quite a bit about this in sessions here before, but also the values of peace building, such as collaboration, empathy, etc. So I'd like now to invite colleagues, friends, people on this call for questions and comments, also sharing their own experiences. You are welcome to ask your question or make your comment.
I think Edda has raised her hand.
Oh, Edda, I didn't
Because
see that.
I can't
so
find
much.
where to put, I don't know where the sign is for my hand. Yeah. Oh, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, Miss Olamma. Thank you, Miss Alexa, for a very good presentation. I was at home. I am a professor of intercultural communication, and everything you were saying was just right home on my, and I'm very excited about that. I do service learning project. I teach at St. Cloud in Minnesota, and I have a service learning project where in the past I have connected students with high school, American students, college, high school with high school students in Kenya. I am really excited because I have an opportunity to revive that. I kind of got tired because of some of the factors that you mentioned about inequalities in as far as infrastructure is concerned. That was a major thing. And now there is an opportunity for me to revive this, even though I was thinking of some or some of the things that we could talk about. For example, you mentioned an important fact about how this semesters flow, and continuity. That is always a problem. The way we do classes in the States, you have one semester, you move, you go to the other one, you never come, all that movement. So yes, that is something I was thinking about if I am to to come back, but I am interested. But one thing that I wanted to say, and this is not the issue, it's not for you, it's the use of the word cultural intelligence. I have a lot of trouble, and it's not only you, Olamma, for your presentation, but I remember reading a critique by an Indian scholar about how the term cultural intelligence is a colonial construction that we need to rethink when we use it in the global south for our people or wherever. Given that, for example, and this scholar was looking at how United States intercultural training is done. You know, the CEOs, they are here, then they are sent to China, they are sent to Africa, and they are the experts of the local culture. They go in, you know, and do 1, 2 things for what? Profits, to make the profits. And then the locals are left wondering, goodness me, what is going on here? Even when the locals, who are the ones making it possible for these cultural intelligence experts to get their work done, but they are not acknowledged. So maybe if we probably should talk more about how we use certain terms in the global south, so that we are not repeating what the colonizers, the masters, who think that they construct their Western knowledge is universal, so that we don't get caught up in that trap. I hope I've articulated my point. I'm a little distracted this morning, but it's just what I was thinking. But otherwise, I'm interested, and I'm going to be writing to you.
No, thank you so much, Professor Eda Mutua, and thank you for that observation. Being very aware of the kind of language that we use is something that is extremely important, especially when we are the ones facilitating and being the conduits for students to understand the greater world. So thank you very much for that point. I saw a question in the chat, Professor George.
Yes, can you read it out?
Okay, it
please?
says it's from, I'm so sorry if I don't pronounce your name correct. It's from Odoch Pido. It said, thank you so much for the informative presentation.
Yes, it is from Odoch Pido.
Odoch Pido, it's a pleasure. Thank you for your question. It says, thank you so much for the informative presentation. I have 2 questions. How long is your program, and does it end in more traditional qualifications, diploma or bachelor's? And number 2, have you tried to run the program from anywhere in Africa instead of Mexico? So the program is the project is 4 weeks long, and it is part of another course. So if you're studying research methodology, etc., it will be part of that particular course. So it does not end in a diploma or a bachelor's. It's part of courses that students take. And have you tried to run it anywhere in Africa instead of Mexico? Currently, we have collaborated, Alexa and I, with a professor in Russia, in Ural Federal University, Dr. Elizaveta. We've had colleagues that have collaborated between Mexico and China, Mexico and Colombia, Mexico and the United States, but I am yet to collaborate with a university in Africa. I'm currently in talks with one of the professors that Dr. George so graciously connected me with, and hopefully in January of 2026 will be our first collaboration with SAUT, the St. Augustine University of Tanzania. So that will be our first time to do a COIL project with a university in Africa.
Good. Thank you so much, Olamma. And Richard, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Elizabeth, my question is already answered. I was about to ask that I think COIL is basically a training for students in line with the courses that they do. And the questions prior to mine seems closer, and then she has answered it. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard. And we've just heard you very loud and clear today. Thank you so much for that. And yes, so you are welcome to put your question in chat or just ask directly. And maybe you have also participated in similar programs. Please feel free to share with us. Yes, Peter, you're welcome.
Thank you. Just wanted to say that this is fascinating to me in the context of work that I'm doing on a book about the extremely sudden change to a world in which information has been displaced by attention as a commodity. And I believe that the work that you're doing at this individual level of connection is the most critical and important work to prevent our extinction. It is relation where we live and where real life goes on. It's ephemeral and churning, changing. You know, it's like being in a river. And but our language is all about the dots, connecting the dots, as if we were dots, as if we stayed the same all the time, and we're linked by chains. It's actually in what we see as chains that we exist. So I'm delighted and thrilled and fascinated to see this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. So some people, maybe this term, cultural intelligence, might be a bit unusual or new. Can somebody try and explain what that is? Maybe Eda, if you would like to talk a little bit about it.
Okay. It's the assumption that, okay, I am not quoting anywhere, but it's my understanding. The assumption that when you are given a certain training, intercultural training or diversity training, you can go. And this is really done, US businesses who have it's a concept developed here. So these big companies, the motor industry in Detroit, they have the executives trained in intercultural competence, and then they will go to, and they're expected, so they go to Asia or anywhere else in the world and do whatever work for the mother company. And the idea, of course, is to make the top dollar, whatever it is. So that idea, even to think that way, that you will teach me how to say gracias and say or whatever when I go somewhere and become the expert and do well and have the intelligence to navigate the local culture is pretty, disingenuous. And that is the problem with the term. And also some scholars, critical scholars from the African American studies have argued that they look at it as the way during slavery intelligence was measured, is who is intelligent. So when you use the term cultural intelligence, it just leaves, it brings that memory. It's of the past, how intelligence was measured. White people can navigate a culture, but a Black quarterback is not intelligent enough to be able to throw a ball. That is my understanding, but somebody else can explain.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eda. Richard, is that a new hand?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yes, I was about to say that intercultural, competence basically deals with one being able to express faithfully his or herself within a different culture. Remember, to be able to commune properly with another person in another culture, you need to study properly. Because it may wonder that someone smile. It may wonder you that someone's smile elsewhere is someone's anger. Are you okay? So you should study them properly so that you may not pick someone's smile to be your smile. So you study cultures properly so that you can fit within them. So this COIL is trying to support students, especially students who want to know more about other world. Support them to be culturally built, so that when they travel from their homeland to other places, they may not find themselves wanting. This is a few that I also can share to the group.
All right, thank you so much, Richard. Alexa, please.
Thank you. I wanted to make it very clear that for us at the university, the program we're offering is Global Perspective, and precisely that's what we want. We want our students to be able to understand other people, other traditions, other cultures, to honor what other people do. Sometimes it may be odd or strange because we don't understand why people do certain things. And so you have stereotypes or you don't have an understanding. And that's what we're trying to foster, is the understanding, the cultural awareness that maybe as Mexicans, we tend to do things in such a way, but maybe in Russia, things are done in a different manner. And it's not wrong, to the contrary. It's done differently, but still with positive results. And so I think that's something that's very important, that we want to see a different perspective, to open our minds, to be able to see that what people do may be different, but it's valuable and important. And I think that's like the most important point in this type of COIL programs, that we have contact, or that our young people have contact with real people from different cultures, and that opens their horizons, that opens their mind to see what the reality is in a different world, different from us. And I think that's like the most important point, to foster understanding, respect, awareness, that not everybody is like us, but that's okay. It's actually very good that people are not just like us. And so that's a very important key element, and that's why our department was developed, because we know that there is a need in our students to be able to go out there and be empathetic and to be able to communicate in a more culturally sensitive way when people don't do things our way or the way we know how to do things. So I think that's the very important thing or very important element in this program.
All right, thank you so much, Alexa, for the clarification. Olamma, please.
Just to add to what Richard and Alexa also said, I think with the COIL project and also with our pushing of the cultural competence building and also awareness, as Alexa said, a lot of our students, we have to think of the bigger picture. And I understand that the context in Mexico may be different from the context in the United States. Definitely, it's a very different cultural context. But a lot of our students are going to be take positions of power, authority, and are going to be leaders of sectors in society. And even if they may not leave the country or interact with, have the opportunity yet to go outside of the country, they are going to be controlling what people think in Mexico and controlling what the narrative is about other societies and about other places in the world. So having them have the correct mindsets, that have the correct perspective from the get-go, is empowering them, but it's also correcting any lies or any myths that may have been established about different cultures. It is not necessarily so that they would be able to go to other countries and be able to make a profit off of the cultural intelligence. And I understand and recognize that the context in the United States is extremely different from Mexican context as well. But just to clarify that as well, that it's not just a monetary, it's also from a social and a relational point of view. Mexico is the country, I believe, with the highest amount of migration in Latin America. The Tijuana border, which is the border that crosses between the United States and Mexico on the north, is traversed by millions and millions of people every single year. So the Mexican society has been confronted with such a huge surge of different cultures and different people. But if they don't have the mentality on how to process and how to properly address them, then it will turn into an anti-immigrant narrative that we've seen in different places because they don't have this awareness to understand that this is a different culture, but that is okay. They are not our aliens or enemies because they're different. So that is extremely important for students. I'm saying students because we work in faculty, that we work in academia, but it's extremely important for society to have that type of awareness at the grassroots level. It's not particularly for profit gain yet in that sense. But I understand that the contexts are extremely different, and that is something that should not be overlooked, and it's something that should be taken into consideration, especially when talking to people from different cultural contexts, from different countries, because what someone says in Mexico that is okay and acceptable, when taken into another context, it would have different antecedents that predate or precede that very construct. But just clarifying that we recognize and that we understand the point of view, but also to clarify where and also again, that language is extremely important and clarifying language is extremely important when we talk to our students. But that's our focus.
All right. Mary, would you like to go next? Mary, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And in my cultural exchanging experience, I think different culture means the first, the people excited, and the second, they struggling for the different culture because the body language different, and the eyes contact different, and the smile also different. And I think young people was easy to attract by the different culture, very easy, and because they more activity to want to share, want to understand the new different. And they also have problems. They don't know how to protect their culture and the tradition, the core. And you teach me, I learn about the cultural intelligence. This is my first know this and very happy. And the question is, what is cultural intelligence to help the young people to keep their original culture and the tradition? That's, I think, important. The intelligence is kind of easy to talk about people, and I just understand is hate there after conflict, conflict, but love come over all around. But intelligence, how to conquer the hate and understand, misunderstand. I can't understand. Sorry.
All right. Thank you, Mary. I hope your point was taken and the speakers will respond to that. And Eda, please.
Yeah, just a clarification. I do not just drawing attention to the term cultural intelligence does not in any way imply a critique of what you are doing, Olamma and Alexa. No, but it's one of those things where in a classroom, you are right to make a point about the context. If, for example, I am to join, my students are to join. The United States classroom is very different from the class I taught at the University of Nairobi this January, where all the kids in that class are Kenyans. But my class in Minnesota is kids from all over the world, where they are paying attention to every word that I use. So I use word and they put up their hand and say, that doesn't work where I come from, where I'm constantly reminded of the intercultural dynamics in my classroom. For example, another time I was teaching a basic course, Introduction to Communication, and we were talking about different interpersonal, just eye contact, how body non-verbal communication. In United States, you look at people right in the face. And so that is what the textbook is saying. And my classroom has students from all over. And one student put up their hand and told me he was from Bangladesh. I'll never forget. And he said, Professor Mutua, are you honest? Are you sure what you believe in what you are telling us right now? Look at somebody in the face. You tell us you are a Kenyan. That is not your culture. Dynamics like that. And I was shocked. And he said, critique, we have to have an opportunity to critique these textbooks that are saying things that we are not. And my response to the student was, look here, I just want to prepare you for this context that you are in. Because if you don't look right in the face of other people, they'll think you are fraud, they'll not trust you, and you'll be in trouble. That's how I handled the situation. So even today, drawing attention to this is just that. Where some people, if you have students from those cultures that have been oppressed for a long time, they will say something. Let me go to data critique of intercultural intelligence, just for us to know it doesn't apply to COIL. That data argue that intercultural cultural intelligence is used as a neoliberal tool where, what the companies, the industry is doing. And it also sometimes oversimplifies culture as static. And it doesn't account for historical injustices, colonial legacies, and structural inequalities. That is where I was coming from. So that big picture, because of the dynamics in our classrooms and where we are. And also for me to prepare my students before coming to Mexico so that they don't bring this mentality of how they have been conditioned as Americans. Oh, we are interacting with students from Mexico. Oh, wow, 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 wow. That kind of thing. And here it's an opportunity for me to debunk that and prepare them very well before they come with a disposition of superiority, because that is how their society has constructed Mexico and or Africa or other cultures. So it's really a job for us here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eda. Somebody wanted to comment on that, respond to that? Evelyn, please, you're welcome.
Mine isn't a comment on that because I agree with everything that's been said. You know, because I was so taken by the presentation, my instinct initially was to ask why it's not offered as a standalone course rather than being integrated into another course. But given the discussion, especially on cultural intelligence being linked to certification and the presumption of expertise, I now understand that it may be more effective to have its focus on learning rather than just receiving marks and a label. So my question is, what discussions along these lines did you have when you were trying to put together COIL and how it would be delivered?
Thank you very much, Evelyn, for your question. Just to clarify, or to understand, what discussions along the lines of the goal or of the cultural dialogue did we have when creating the COIL?
No, any discussions on, given the importance of COIL, any discussions on having it as sort of a standalone university course rather than as a component of another course? My understanding from you is that it's a component within another course.
Yes, it's a component within a subject. And no, as far as I know, there haven't been any discussions on making it a complete either course or degree program. No, it's only been discussed as a component because it's meant to be a complementary experiential learning in addition to the rest of the content of the course. So students in medicine can do COIL, students in communication, studying for a communication degree can do a COIL, students in mathematics can do a COIL component for them to have that experiential real life application, even though they may not be able to leave their country, but to have that application and also that contact within their degree program while studying to their degree program.
Thank you. I hadn't realized that it applied to all different courses, and that's fantastic.
It's all different courses. Actually, our course is a transversal course. So we have students from all over who take the Global Perspectives course. So we'd have students from medicine, gastronomy, economics in the same classroom for our course. But even in their own degree programs that are streamlined towards either medicine, science, they can also have COIL projects in those as well. But it's a component, it's a complementary component as of now. Yes, thank you.
And by the way, I'm no longer arguing for standard courses. I said I've been educated through this discussion, and thank you for it. Thank everybody for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. We have about 10 minutes to go, so we can take 2 more questions. And then we allow our speakers to summarize their talk, just to give us some thoughts that we have to remember. I think this has been really wonderful for us peace builders and students, that we need to be aware of the intercultural similarities, actually not only differences, and seek how we can actually work together, because we come from different parts of the world, and so intercultural communication, intercultural competencies are very, very important. Charles, you're welcome. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for a great presentation. And I was just curious about kind of diplomacy and the use of intercultural competencies to help diplomats and government people be more understanding of different cultures. And in that regard, thinking as a kind of encyclopedic way, are you familiar with any works, any books that might describe stereotypes from different perspectives? It might be handy to have kind of a handbook of stereotypes to debunk. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charles. And maybe before they respond to that, I'd like to ask Peter also to ask a question or make a comment.
Thank you. We seem to be talking about a sort of meta language. Like before having this course, a person could live in a very circumscribed world without any knowledge that there were limits around them. And having these little glimpses forms a crack in that shell. It's like an eggshell. If there's a crack in it, you immediately know there's more to this universe, which puts you in a different relationship to life. The other thing I wanted to mention was I wrote a letter to the editor years ago after, I think it was probably Bush and Cheney were doing something they called negotiating in countries where haggling is a fine art. When I was in Nigeria as a teenager, when we first arrived, the front of the house filled up with bicycles full of baggage, and all the traders in Zaria knew that we had arrived and came to see us immediately. And they were there all day, and none of them cared at all if they sold anything. It was just a gathering, like a party. And I learned later through many such experiences and interactions with people, just trying to buy some eggs or something, get me a mango. Nobody cared about the transaction, really. And so, but the Americans went off to do these negotiations about oil wells and things, and it was like, take it or leave it. And that preceded the 9/11 disaster. And to me, it was so obvious that this is the phenomenon. And I think this is the phenomenon that you are coming up with the remedy for.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Peter. And now I would like to ask Alexa or Olamma to respond, particularly to the question from Charles.
Okay, Charles, thank you very much for your question. So your question was if we have compiled a handbook of stereotypes based on various authors. Is that correct? If we have thought about doing it.
Yeah, something along those lines, or maybe that's a project of interest.
Okay, that would be very interesting to do. We have not compiled a handbook of stereotypes. What usually happens is that we discover that stereotypes are ever the vastness of variety of stereotypes in our interaction with the students. So a lot of times they also tell us we may have stereotypes from our generation, and then they also have stereotypes in their generation now. So with the project as its advancement from year to year and from semester to semester, there are some stereotypes that have been debunked. But at the same time, there are some things that still can be done because I've had students ask me the most outlandish questions about Africa, which is not a country, it's a continent. But there are also advances because there are some students who have already been open to new information and they know they know the reality and the truths. So a handbook, we haven't thought about it. It would be a very interesting but very progressive project because it would be something that would need to be updated with every generation and every new year that comes. We haven't thought about it. Right now, in our course, we do have the theoretical foundation of Orientalism by Edward Said, and from there, we open up the conversation to students to tell us, based on this theoretical framework that we have from Edward Said's Orientalism concept, how do you relate to this? What are some examples of stereotypes, Orientalism, or power relationships that you see in your own society using this theoretical framework as a lens? And then we open the conversation up to them. But every year, every semester, there are new ideas being given. So a handbook is very interesting, but it will take a lot of updating. But that's a very wonderful idea.
All right, thank you so much, Olamma and Alexa. You're welcome for.
I wanted to also mention, we also talk about the acculturation process with Sam and Barry. And so it is important that the students understand what is the acculturation process and how this happens. So we start out with our own country, which was also a colonized country. And so we talk about what happened with Mexico and why is Mexico different than, for example, the United States and Canada, and then with South America or Brazil. And so the acculturation process is important. And so then we can also take it to different cultures. And so we do talk a little bit about, well, we talk about Orientalism with Edward Said. We talk about the African continent, which is very foreign for them, as Olamma will tell you. And so, but we try to integrate a little bit of the world so they can have an idea with this course. So the acculturation process is part of something that we talk about the different artifacts, about the different meanings, about the traditions, all of these situations that create a culture. And so that's why this COIL program is so important, because they're able to understand what we see in class, what we see on paper is actually real with real people. And so that's part of the understanding and the competencies that we want our students to acquire for their personal knowledge, for their education, and for the future.
All right. Thank you so much indeed. And now, as we are winding up, I would like to ask our speakers, what would you like us to remember most or do? So I don't know who would like to begin.
Alexa, would you like to go or?
Okay, yes. What I would like people to remember is that we want to foster cultural awareness, and through understanding that there are differences, we are able to become a more peaceful community. I think that our world right now needs peace and understanding, and this program fosters that. And so that's what I would like people to remember, that we want to see a global perspective, perspectives that are different from ours, but that precisely makes us understand and appreciate what we are and what other people are. So opening up the horizon for our students. That's what I would like you to remember, that we want peace and understanding. And I think we are the people who can help foster that individually and socially.
Thank you. Olamma, please.
So I agree with everything Alexa has said, and she made a wonderful conclusion. I would just like to reiterate again that we are welcome, willing, and waiting to receive your emails. We've expressed our interest. I would love to collaborate with a variety of universities, a variety of perspectives, exactly because it allows students to know the vastness and diversity that exists in the world and their place in it. So please feel free to write me an email, write Alexa an email, and we would start this process together to establish a COIL project. And a very big thank you to those who asked questions. A very big thank you to Prof. Edna, to Odok Bido, to Charles, and a huge thank you as well to Peter, and the last one to Professor George for facilitating this webinar series and giving us the opportunity to come here and to share, to exchange ideas, and to also be aware of what the current dynamics are in our society, and also to be able to connect and network with other professionals. So thank you very much, Prof. George, for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Olamma and Alexa, for your time and for your brilliant presentations. Thank you for inviting us to join COIL, and I'm sure we will. And I thank everybody also on this call. Please join us again next Wednesday. We meet every Wednesday at the same time. And so I appreciate always your being with us. So bye-bye for now.
All right.
Peter, the recording has stopped, right?
Oh,